So if you've been planning to deploy or start your new SaaS projects and you're like wondering where's the best stack currently in 2024, how much would it cost you to run all this SaaS, and all the literal questions that you have, before doing a SaaS and all the question marks you have. Well, in this video, I'm going to try to answer what did it take me to release my new SaaS projects in here, which is a React ebook that helps you write clean code using clean code principles and best practices to elevate your React skills and write cleaner, better, and easier to read code. And I've just recently released this new SaaS, which is just, like a simple project that allows you to download the ebook, email the ebook, stay updated, uses databases, uses Stripe for payments, so much more. And by recently, I mean like just a week ago. So what I wanted to do today is actually go ahead and share all the insights and what I've learned from this. Also, what is the cost for running this SaaS project, and what is the tech stack I used for this specific case, and why I did so. So if you're interested in elevating your React skills and writing better code in React, you can go ahead into like solreact.dev in here to check the website, where it's currently like on sale with a 17% off. And you can learn more about what is this. You can read all the reviews. You can see like what is solid, the contents of the ebook to see if it fits you or not. And of course, just like buying the ebook in here. And of course, before actually committing and buying the ebook, you can go ahead and get a free preview, free of charge, just like enter your email. You're going to get the first chapter in 15 pages, just for you to see if the ebook is for you or not before actually buying. And of course, we're using Stripe for payment processing, so everything is as smooth as possible. And of course, you can go and read the FAQ section in here if you've got any questions. So this is just like, in summary, what does the SaaS looks like? It's a pretty simple thing, but of course, we all know like starting a SaaS, it might look very simple, but there are actually a lot of moving parts behind the scenes, like payments, deployment, caching, DNS, domains, servers, Next.js, like tens of thousands of things behind the scenes going on behind, building something as simple as this, from styling to mobile responsive to tens of other things. And just want to share my experience, like going through this for you guys to learn from this. And if you're like wondering, what is it going to cost me, or how much is it going to take me to build my own SaaS and deploy it? And what is the best tech stack to, go with in 2024 or 2025? We're very close on that. I mean, all the questions in here. So I'm just going to try to share my full experience on this. All right, so first, let's go ahead and see behind the scenes, what is the actual architecture of building the application and how, what is the actual tech stack, the servers, deployments, and everything behind the scenes for powering this ebook SaaS kind of thing, from where the user actually has the payment to sending the ebook to the provided email address and all the things happening behind the scenes. So let's go ahead and start from right of the top in here, starting from the domain name. So the domain name here is actually solid react.dev, which is a pretty simple, straightforward domain name. And for any SaaS, you want to actually do a very simple, straightforward domain name, even though it's not like a .com or a .io, one of these like common TLDs. But you want to go with something that, works with the naming, easy to remember, straightforward, not too long. And I believe for this case scenario, because we want to do like, teach people and give them this ebook for learning how to write solid code, which goes pretty well with the solid React principles or the solid coding principles, and it goes with dev, so like solid React developer. That's actually a pretty accurate and good domain name. So that's the first thing in here. The second thing in here is actually the DNS, which of course is going to point the domain name to your behind the scenes servers. And I'm using in here Cloudflare because it has the best DNS server. Their dashboard is pretty straightforward. It's very easy to set up. And of course, it costs $0. Like $0 to do a lot of stuff with pretty awesome security features like DDoS prevention and so much more, like a lot of things, and caching out of the box for free. So, of course, I chose Cloudflare in here because everybody loves Cloudflare. I do, among them, and especially right now because I tried it. I got like hands-on deployments and stuff like that. Cloudflare is amazing. All right, the second most important part here is actually the servers. So where am I deploying my Next.js servers? Obviously, this application has been built and it's empowered by Next.js, like the normal Next.js we know. And I did not choose Vercel for many reasons, actually. And I chose instead of serverless, I went with a server, normal regular server hosted in here that has virtual machines, which is like a normal VPS servers. There's just like a fancy name for VPS servers with like Docker sort of like support and stuff. So that's what I went with, like normal VPS servers that runs 24 hours, doesn't do any serverless thing. It's pretty simple, pretty easy, straightforward to set up. Do the servers, deploy your Next.js application, and let it work. And I'm using a Fly.io for this, which is absolutely amazing. And for Fly.io in here, of course, it provides like its own load balancer behind the scenes for having multiple machines running in different regions. And because Fly.io or Fly.io has a pretty substantial, huge map of servers and I'm going to call it a CDN in here of like different machines of like places where you can actually deploy your applications. There's like Amsterdam, there is, the whole United States pretty much. There's Asia, Africa, everything you want it. And I chose 2 different regions in here, one in Europe and the second one in Texas. And I mostly chose those 2 in here because they are the closest and like in the center of the United States or the center of Europe in here when it comes to Amsterdam. So I think both of these are actually, pretty cool for our case scenario. And of course, both of these machines are running on Fly.io in here, and Fly.io is going to manage everything for you from the CLI, which makes it super simple, or from their dashboard. And I'm deploying, of course, Fly.io uses Docker. So you deploy using Docker in here, and Docker is going to take care of deploying to both of the machines in here. It's going to manage the load balancing. It's going to manage everything for you. You just like do fly deploy, like run the fly deploy command, and you are over there. Now, when it comes to databases, it's actually a very interesting part. So Fly.io in here has or implemented this really cool protocol, which called like LightFS. I don't know if it's even a protocol in this case, but it's called like LightFS in here, which allows you to run SQLite databases. And those SQLite databases, as we all know, SQLite, it doesn't have a server, it's just like a file, and you gotta have access to the file. So that means the file has to live right inside of the machine that runs it. So because this one runs in this is a completely different machine from this Amsterdam machine, both of them has to have their own separate databases. Of course, this is going to make it super fast because the database literally lives inside of the machine, so there's no latency at all, which is absolutely great. But the only part in here, because you've got 2 databases, how are you going to synchronize these 2 databases? I mean, if somebody is accessing from the United States, this database is going to be out of sync compared to the Europe or Amsterdam sort of like database instance, right? Well, this is actually where LightFS comes in here and actually make our lives quite simpler. So LightFS in here is going to implement this layer protocol. It's going to intercept all the SQLite sort of like calls, and between them, it's going to always synchronize the databases between each other. So they are never out of sync. They're always synchronized. And of course, Fly.io in here or LightFS is going to only take one database instance out of these 2 in here to act as a primary one, and the other one is going to act as a replica. So this is just going to help it, be a little more efficient, easier to write and read, and avoid kind of like unnecessary issues. So when it comes to databases, SQLite in here runs inside of their machine, which means it costs like $0. I don't know if I can type dollars in here, but costs $0, literally no latency, no issues, just a simple file. That's why I chose it. Of course, moving down here, I'm using Next.js, as I said before. So Next.js in here is going to be like the core part of everything. And because I'm using no serverless at all, so that means no serverless functions, no serverless databases, just a simple normal server, just deploying Next.js to a normal 24-hour regular server that never stops like serverless, Next.js is going to work fine, or the API endpoint is going to work fine. You're going to have no issues at all deploying that Next.js application. Everything's going to work fine. The middleware, the webhooks, anything you need pretty much. It's just like running on a normal server. If it's where running in Vercel or like a serverless infrastructure kind of thing where Next.js is used to run. So you can just imagine, Vercel running this kind of thing, but it's like a normal server, if that makes sense. So that's why I like it. I don't want to do any serverless stuff. Plus the DB in here, because I want to use SQLite, there's no way to use SQLite instead of like Vercel. So instead I had to use this servers in here, which I really enjoyed. And let me tell you, this is 100% worth it, running this SQLite thing with Fly.io. Fly.io is just so amazing. I don't know how many times I said that when I was like deploying and working with it, but it is just straightforward. I've been working with a lot other sort of hosting providers and clouds like AWS and stuff. They're never easy. Fly, on the other hand, makes it just straightforward, straight to the point. All right, so this all deployed in normal servers in here. And of course, for, third-party stuff like the storage, I'm using an S3 compatible storage, which is R2, provided by Cloudflare, completely free for like $0. And I'm using AWS in here, Simple Email Service, or SCS in here for sending emails on scale. And I'm like running this on like a free trial, so I pay $0 currently. And even though like SCS in here is pretty cheap because I'm not sending that huge amount of emails. And it is pretty accurate, no spam, and pretty simple as well to set up. The API is straightforward. And this, my friends, is like literally the whole architecture in here for sending emails, running Next.js, deploying to different places. One more thing in here for caching. That's like one other point. That's why you're probably wondering why I'm just deploying to 2 regions in here instead of like 3 regions. Maybe, you might be wondering like Europe, the US, and maybe Asia or Oceania, something like that, like, going to the east. So the reason I didn't do that, I was actually going to go ahead and deploy to like Singapore or something. But the reason I didn't do that because, my website doesn't require that much of like changes. It's not like that huge dynamic kind of thing. It's just like one landing page that doesn't change that much. So instead of deploying a third machine into this stack in here where it would cost a little more money, and we can use caching in here from Cloudflare, which is absolutely perfect. It's $0. It works absolutely fine. You can clear the cache whenever you like. And of course, because the CDN network of Cloudflare is huge, like literally huge, like literally everywhere in the world. So deploying it to Cloudflare and actually using the cache in here to cache the content for both of these servers in here when needed, if there is no updates for different users, like a week or something. That's what I'm doing it right now, I guess. It just makes it a lot simpler and a lot faster. So if you try to access the website from anywhere after the cache hits as well, of course, which it's not going to take that much anyway, the website is going to load up in less than 2 seconds. So yes, this is worth it. And believe me, if you don't need like huge dynamic data, you're not running like real-time insights dashboard, something that requires a huge amount of real-time data, caching is your friend, literally. All right, so now going down to the total cost for running the SaaS. FlyIO in here, which is the service provider and has, a huge CDN set before you can deploy, remove machines. It has the database inside of it with a Sequelize. Everything is included inside of those machines. All I have to pay around is $20. Currently, I pay around $17, but of course, it's going to depend sometimes on the load it takes because sometimes it has to pass this inner side of like CDN network and it kind of like occurs egress charges, which are not that much and completely worth it. So it might just like be a little more than that, but that's completely fine. It's not going to just go outrageous. And of course, this is deploying Next.js to an actual server, not serverless, and running Next.js, functions and APIs, everything you could think of running inside of Next.js. For domain name in here, I'm using Namecheap and Cloudflare, $12 a year for .dev.tld. The DB in this side, of course, I'm using SQL. I said before, I paid literally $0 because that's DBs included inside of like FlyIO machine. There is a Cloudflare and I'm paying $0. I'm like the free plan right now and it's allowed me to use the DNS, the cache, and the R2 in here for storage for the book data and stuff like that, which is completely free because I'm not storing that much. I think I have a limit of maximum 10 gigabytes and the book is just like, I don't know, 60 megs or something. For AWS in here for use for email sending, currently a free trial, $0, but it could be like $10 a month if you're sending a huge amount of emails, but I'm not sure if it's going to get ever to that in the near time. And for Stripe in here, there's like 3% plus 30 cents per transaction. This is mostly for the US. For EU, it may change a little bit depending on the country, but it's not that much of, different from this actual thing. So it's not going to take care of that. Plus, Stripe has a pretty powerful API, very much trusted by everybody else. And, they all want to put like their credit card info on Stripe because everything is secure on Stripe. The UI is great. Everything about Stripe is great. So I completely agree with that and they are pretty good. So this, my friends, is like the whole kind of like pricing for the whole SaaS structure in here. Doesn't take much. Of course, it takes much of like for building that from scratch and deploying it and all the headache. But cost-wise in here, if you choose your stack wisely and know exactly what to choose depending on what you're using, there are cheap options always. And, from like FlyIO servers to, payment processing in here, you're going to always find a cheaper, better option always. And you're not going to be that much for your first SaaS deployments. So yes, currently on Flying here, I'm running different things like the newsletter, there's a MySQL server running, and there's like the solid React book in here with 2 machines. So everything, all of that, like the last invoice I got is $17. So yes, so far running all these servers with different volumes, so much going on behind the scenes, to be honest. It's running the whole stack behind the scenes. That's like almost $20-ish, less than $20, which is completely perfect. And yes, if you want to check the Fly machines in here, for example, you can access solid React book in here. You're going to find like the activity. Currently, the machines, I didn't go to the details before, but the machines in here in details, I don't know why this is actually loading forever, but if I think go to the machines section in here, these are the 2 machines that are deployed, one to Dallas, Texas, the other one to Amsterdam, Netherlands. They both run on the shared, like, which is the cheapest CPU there out there, like the shared CPU 1X. Both of them run on that, and 1 gigabyte of RAM, which is, of course, the cheapest again. And yes, they run the whole Next.js application with everything going on just with this, and around 1 gig of volume in here for like 17 megs used currently. Both of them are like the Sequelize databases. You see, they both have the same size, which means they're completely synchronized. And when it comes to like, you can go and use GraphQL in here to get more details and insights of what's going on behind the scenes on these servers, from CPU utilization to RAM and memory, just taking like a half, 500 megabytes. I think that's pretty good for Next.js. If you get a lot of load, you may want to like upgrade this to 2 gigs, but I think it should be enough most of the time. And yeah, everything is pretty transparent. I love it. Super simple. You know, it's just like a very simple SaaS. Always when you want to start with your own SaaS and you build it first, you want to start with something very simple and straightforward. You want to overcomplicate stuff with like AWS or something. I mean, it's just like you are an indie hacker. You are trying to build something cool in here. So focus on building and not on infrastructure that much, and just use the easiest, cheapest option at first, and you can scale up when you need to. And yes, AWS, as I said before, completely $0 in here, free trial, but it's not going to cost that much after all. Of course, you can still go ahead and deploy this to Vercel if this SaaS actually works with your needs and you don't need like a SQLite database like I did, or you're running like a, serverless Postgres database with that. You can completely do that. The only thing I do not like about Vercel in here is their like new billing sort of structure and their serverless kind of thing of like cold starts and stuff, which kind of like take a little bit of time. What I like about them though is the user experience pretty good. The UI, the dashboard is just amazingly good. But of course, depends on the scenario. For my scenario here, Vercel wouldn't actually work because of the databases and how I want to structure my stuff. And I kind of like prefer Fly.io for most projects currently, because I'm more of like a guy who likes to control his servers and what happens behind the scenes, but I still use Vercel for a lot of other projects as well. So yes, and recently has been a lot of hate on Vercel, depending on like how things are going on, especially after the announcement of like Cloudflare's new announcement of joining the OpenNext sort of like projects for like maintaining an official adapter to allow deploying Next.js like officially to Cloudflare workers with all the features that Cloudflare actually offers and all the supported features from Next.js, like if you're deploying it to Vercel. This gotten like so much hate from different people, and people are like throwing hate as well at Vercel. So like what I'm saying in here is just like, for billing issues with Vercel, I completely understand that sometimes they're a little bit of hidden and you don't know about those, because you may think that, oh, that's pretty simple, but you ended up paying a lot more than what you expected. But what I'm saying is like, you can go in and read the docs, you can do some research before doing that, or you can completely like switch to something like Fly or own your own VPS or Cloudflare if you like. I mean, nobody's like locking you in something. And yeah, every platform is a great platform, because if it wasn't, people wouldn't have like chosen that platform. I love Vercel. I love Cloudflare. I literally like, in my opinion of how things should work in the tech world, everybody actually chooses whatever they like. And I like having options if I decided to deploy something to Vercel, because I do have projects running in Vercel and I have like, companies I works with deployed to Vercel, and it's pretty great. I've had so much fun with it and it's really nice. So that's good. People also use Cloudflare because it's pretty cool. So everybody loves something and they can stick with it. And of course, depending on your scenario, how you want to use it, how you want to utilize it, and like just the overall experience could also play a pivotal role in that. So all I'm saying is choose whatever you want depending on what you want to do. So yeah, so this has been solid React.dev and like how I deploy my projects in here. From simple Next.js deployment to Docker, different machines, the whole CDN structure of how it works, to the payment process in here, everything behind the scenes. And again, if you're interested in running cleaner code in React and following the best practices and solid React principles from beginner and simple examples to very advanced examples and solid principles and clean code best practices, you can go ahead and follow the book in here, try the free preview maybe, or buy the full version in here. It's on sale right now. I think 6 days are left. Currently for me, 6 days are left. But of course, you go and try it out yourself in here, and you can go to solidreact.dev for trying that out. So let me know, guys, what you think about the website, the tech stack. If I can have something I can improve, why not? So let me know in the comments, and hopefully you guys enjoy the video, and hopefully you enjoy this kind of videos, like, trying things in SaaS and, sharing my experience with you guys of how everything I'm deploying and what is going on behind the scenes, and, the whole overall experience, and what I liked and what I disliked and everything I go over, and all the other stuff. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and catch you all hopefully in another sassy, cool video.